Be more grind, ride shine through the struggle. Black dollar circulate, flexing muscle. Politics and biz building walls like bricks. Motown soul rap mixed in the fix. Doni Glover spitting truth, microphone holder. Past the noise scene, watch growth in the folder. Black biz bright spotlight in the dark. Hustling hard, lighting sparks in the park. Be more new, where we breaking glass ceilings. All black every day, income healing. Doni Glover, flip the script, let's go. Black Wall Street roadmap, be more flow. Real talk, stock rise, dreams ain't looking hollow. Blueprints, handshakes, enemies wallow. Baltimore kings, queens, crown on the throne. Legacy built, stone by stone. Headlines, deadlines, moves in the background. Politics, money clips, elevate the town. Black beard strategist, wealth can't be missed. Twist the plot, make the whole world twist. Be more news, success we inhaling. Victories, iron rest, no detailing. Doni Glover, rise to shine, let's glow. Focused on
GDP is $23 trillion. 23
Be more grind, ride shine through the struggle. Black dollar circulate, flexing muscle. Politics and biz building walls like bricks. Spitting truth, microphone holder. Past the noise scene, watch growth in the.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's show. My name is Doni Glover, publisher of BmoreNews.com and also BlackUSA.News. We've had some wonderful evenings full of information. Special thank you to STEMCityUSA.com, our main sponsor. Tonight, we have with us, for starters, Mr. Hannibal. How's that camera working, Hannibal? Try that again. Why isn't it showing up well? Are you there? Hannibal? There we go. So let me give him a proper introduction. Let us know when you can hear us, Hannibal. So why do we have Hannibal here tonight? So let's give you his bio for starters. Harvard Law School graduate, author, attorney, consultant specializing in diversity, equity.
I'm here.
And inclusion. Can you hear me okay?
Are you there?
Can you hear me okay? There's a bit of a delay. We can solve this. Hold tight.
I made it a try.
I'm going to call you if you can hear me, Hannibal. That's me dialing you now. Hannibal, can you hear me? Are you there?
Pardon me?
come back to the screen. We'll do the audio this way, okay?
Okay, just come back to the screen.
Yeah.
Just do audio.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be right back. 1 second.
So, folks, we're being joined by Hannibal Johnson. Let me just share his bio. A Harvard Law School graduate, author, attorney, consultant specializing in DEI, human relations, leadership, nonprofit leadership, and management. He has taught at the University of Tulsa College of Law, Oklahoma State University, the University of Oklahoma. Johnson serves on the federal 400 Years of African American History Commission. He chaired the Education Committee for the 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre Centennial Commission and served as the local curator of its world-class history center, Greenwood Rising. His books include Black Wall Street 100 and American City Grapples with its historical racial trauma, chronicle the African-American experience in Oklahoma and its indelible impact on American history. So he's written many books on Oklahoma, Indian territory, Black history, and let's see, is this him? Okay, here we go. Okay, you there?
Yeah, is it possible just to do it this way?
Okay, well, we'll roll with it. How you doing?
I'm doing well. I don't know what's going on. I have a weak connection, I think, here at the house, and so that's probably part of the problem.
Okay, well, I was just doing an introduction of you, and what's next is your most recent book.
Yeah, the most recent book is called 10 Ways We Can Advance Social Justice, and the subtitle is Without Destroying Each Other. So the idea is that one of the things that's painfully absent is civil discourse, and that we need to figure out a way to talk with one another as opposed to talking at or through one another in order to make a dent in some of these seemingly insoluble, insurmountable problems that we face.
So what apply that to 2025? I'm in Baltimore, 45 minutes from DC. What does that mean right now, considering all that's going on in this country?
Yeah, it means that as I see it, many people feel, including myself, feel overwhelmed with the sheer breadth and depth of the challenges that are being thrown at us. And that so some people react to that onslaught by withdrawing. But what we need, quite the contrary, is the converse of withdrawal. We need total engagement. And so the book is designed to help people understand that there are very simple ways that they can engage and make incremental, meaningful change over time. And it starts from the premise that there are 3 macro ways to do that, beginning with introspection, looking at self and the folks that one surrounds self with, looking at engagement, how you're connected to the community, and looking at advocacy, how you are working to change substantive, systemic policy that really matters in the end. And that's particularly apparent at the federal level. Policy matters, leadership matters, whom we elect matters. So for us to pull out is absurd because it just magnifies our problems. And one of the ways to advance social justice that I talk about in the 10 ways is, the way I frame it, is play politics. Some people tend to be averse to what they consider to be politics, but my view is either you play politics or politics plays you. You can't opt out. You don't opt out. Either you play or you're getting played. And so you have to figure out ways to influence the politics around you. And that's not just at the federal level. It's at the local level, the county or parish level, the state level, federal level. It's at all levels. Who's on the school board really does matter. who's on the city council matters, right? Who's in Congress matters, who's in the Senate matters, who's the president. All those things matter. And we have, as I see it, an obligation, a moral obligation to engage in the political system, particularly Black people. I mean, we have ancestors who died so that we can do that. And to not do that is, to me, is to dishonor our ancestors.
Here's a pointed question. There in Oklahoma, do you see a surge in Native Black American interest?
Are you speaking of the relationship between Black folks and Native folks?
No, just the conversation among Black people increasingly claiming our indigenous roots.
Well, that's a tough question because I, you know, like most people, I engage with a rather discrete group of folks on a regular basis, people I think I know on a deeper level. And those people tend to be people who are progressive, who are thinking about, you know, culture and history and things like that. So there is that progressive element here, especially in the metro areas, Tulsa and Oklahoma City, which tend to be, rather than, if we want to use the color scheme, Tulsa and Oklahoma City tend to be more kind of purple as opposed to red or blue. Even though Oklahoma is a ruby red state overall, because there are a lot of rural communities in Oklahoma, which, you know, nationwide, particularly in the Southwest, tend to be more right leaning. But yeah, there are a lot of conversations about all these things that are going on. I mean, people here are talking about what's going on in Washington, D.C. right now. People are talking about what's going on at the Smithsonian right now, because all those things ultimately affect all of us.
Mm-hmm. How do people feel about what's going on in D.C.?
Again, I mean, I can only speak for myself, and I
mean, what do you think when you have the president putting the police chief on ice for 30 days? Have you ever heard of such?
It's clearly an authoritarian move. Our leader is an authoritarian. I think that's fairly clear. He is a narcissist. I think that's fairly clear. He does crave power. I think that's fairly clear. And so to deploy the National Guard in D.C. under the pretext of this, you know, emergency crime wave is demonstrably false. There is no such crime surge. The data don't bear that out. There is no real need for the National Guard, although in D.C., just like in Tulsa, we are short in Tulsa about 800 officers that are a recommended complement of officers. And that's for a variety of reasons. It's for budgetary concerns. It's because we just didn't plan, I think, strategically. There are a variety of reasons for that, but so we could use more person power on the police department, but we wouldn't want the federal authorities to impose upon us a group of individuals who are not trained in law enforcement to really usurp the functions of our trained law enforcement officers. Who would want that? Nobody wants that. I mean, except the person who wants to show force and show power.
We've been hearing bits and pieces on Tulsa's, on what's happening in terms of the commemoration of Tulsa's Black Wall Street. From a national perspective, for people who don't know, are you pleased with the attention that Tulsa's Black Wall Street has gotten over the past few years?
Yes, the history of Black Wall Street has been enormously elevated, particularly after the centennial in 2021. You know, we built Greenwood Rising, the Black Wall Street History Center. I was local curator. We work with a group called Local Projects out of Manhattan. It's been very well reviewed. Attendance is high. It's an engaging, experiential look at Tulsa history embedded in the context of national history of that period. And the context is really important because Tulsa, in terms of the massacre, is not an outlier. It's part of a pattern in American history that includes Red Summer 1919. It includes lynchings throughout the United States during that period, which historians and sociologists often refer to as the nadir or low point of race relations in America. So Greenwood Rising has really helped elevate that history. Our mayor, we have our first Black mayor, Monroe Nichols. He announced a couple of months ago the Greenwood Trust, which is a mechanism that he hopes will raise $105 million by 2026, which is a year from now, which will be the 105th anniversary of the massacre. And so he hopes to, raise private funds, have the city perhaps donate assets like land to raise this money to do some things in the way of what I would call community investments. It's really a form of reparations that involve putting money into a targeted community that has been harmed by historical racial trauma. So his goal is to do things like add housing, promote business, those sorts of things in the community, using the 105th anniversary of the massacre as a means and a timeline to raise this $105 million. So that's good. We have the mass graves investigation, which is ongoing, which is an effort to determine whether there are in fact mass graves from the massacre in Tulsa, and if so, looking at the potential sites, discovering whether there are remains in those sites, doing exhumations, and some DNA analysis to determine who those people were. So that's ongoing. The commission a group called the Beyond Apology Commission, and the goal of that commission was to have community conversations in various sectors of the community, have dialogue, and get recommendations on reparations, and it really is part of the basis for the creation of that Greenwood Trust that I described earlier. So there's a lot of activity that helps elevate the history of the community. And again, Greenwood Rising, the museum, part of the reason for the museum is to be an asset for heritage and cultural tourism. So the people from local areas, from the state, from the nation, from the world, and we've had all those people, will visit this community, learn about the history, connect the history to national and even international history. For me, as the local curator, the core message of all this is what I refer to as shared humanity. And that is, we must learn to respect the dignity and worth of every other human being. Because if we really learn that and we really internalize that, we don't do things like create genocides or massacres. We don't have power plays like you have in DC right now. I mean, these things don't happen when you really internalize that message about our shared humanity and the dignity and worth of all people. So my fear, and I think it's the fear shared by many people today, is that we're slowly and actually with increasing rapidity, we're losing our democracy.
To say the least.
Which will also result in us losing, to some extent, this notion of our shared humanity. Because authoritarians don't care about shared humanity. They care about power.
Now, the thing is, you wrote this book before this re-election.
Yes. Yes.
So it's kind of sort of forward thinking, if not prophetic.
Well, yeah. So it's not a response to President Trump. Although it is, it wasn't written that way. It really is written as a response to apathy and disengagement on the part of a lot of people in the face of overwhelming challenges at every level. And again, it's at the federal level, of course, with all the stuff that's happening in the Trump administration, but it's also in Oklahoma, for example, at the state level, because we have a state superintendent of education who is really rogue and is overtly pushing a far right wing agenda through policy and through his position. And so that's creating great challenges at the state level. We also have an overwhelmingly Republican legislature at the state level, and they are taking some of the rubber stamp legislation that comes out of these think tanks, anti-DEI legislation, anti-woke legislation, all that kinds of stuff, and adopting it here in Oklahoma, as they are in Texas and other places. So those things create challenges as well. Those things actually mirror what the president just announced he wants to do with the Smithsonian Institution, which is sanitize our history and focus almost exclusively on American exceptionalism, how great America is, and not talk about those ugly little things like slavery and Jim Crow and that kind of stuff. We don't need to worry about that. So my argument is not that America is not exceptional. It's that the exceptionalism comes with realizing that we have really high aspirational goals here. And when we don't meet them, we acknowledge that we haven't met them, and we figure out how to better meet them.
What would you say to states that have all blue state legislature, a blue city? And I am talking about where I live, Baltimore, 9-1 Democrat, state of Maryland, 2-1 Democrat, black governor, largest black caucus in the country of state legislators. What would you say to them from a, outside observer perspective, one in a red place?
Well, I would say that I really admire your governor, Wes Moore. And I would say that the challenge for Democrats and independents and people and Republicans who are not supporting the current administration is that, unfortunately, at the federal level, people in his party are supporting him, irrespective of some of their individual beliefs. So they're acquiescing and allowing him to do whatever pops in his mind, which just emboldens him more and makes it harder for other folks to function. And so I would imagine that a lot of people in Baltimore, for example, feel like they're always playing defense. They're always fighting something that's coming at them, right? Instead of being creative and coming up with affirmative things to do. Because it's imperative that you challenge the negative things that are coming at you and disable them to the extent possible. And I think people get frustrated with, if we're talking about political parties, the Democratic Party, again, at the federal level, thinking, well, they're not doing enough. They should be doing more. Well, they don't have the power at the federal level in Congress. It makes it really difficult to challenge some of the things that are happening because you just don't have the numbers. You don't have the votes. I suspect that in the state legislature in a place like Maryland, you're probably not beset with some of the crazy legislation that we get here. And you probably are able to do a little bit more affirmative, progressive policy making. But here, again, in a place like Oklahoma, where it's so overwhelmingly at the state level legislature, so overwhelmingly Republican, it's just a matter of trying to fend off some of the more offensive things that are happening.
Are you optimistic for the country?
Well, I will quote Dr. King. It's always a good idea to quote Dr. King, by the way. Dr. King said, "We must accept finite disappointments, but we must never lose infinite hope." And that sort of sums up my position. So I know that there'll be disappointments, and I know that the pendulum swings. And so, yes, I am optimistic. I'm not stupid, and I am a realist. But I'm optimistic that in the long run, it's the whole sprint versus marathon metaphor. In the long run, some of the stuff will even out. My fear is that some of the damage that's being done right now, it may be repaired, but it's going to take years to repair some of the damage that's been done.
Well, thank you for joining us. How can people catch up with you? How can people follow you?
Well, they can go to, I'm on Facebook, but they can go to the website, which is www.Hannibal, HANNIBAL, as in boy, Johnson, JOHNSON.com. All the books are available on Amazon, so you can get the books there. And there we are. I hope people are interested, especially in the book, 10 Ways We Can Advance Social Justice, because it is especially relevant in these times.
Any final thoughts?
My plea is for people to engage. Yeah, as Arthur Ashe said once, start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. So you don't have to engage at a high level. You can start at a small level, neighborhood, community level, but get involved, because the only way that we can change things ultimately is for everyone to get involved and to really care about that notion of shared humanity.
Good deal. Hannibal B. Johnson, thank you for coming through as always. This has been a very momentous week for us. We've been having a discussion about Black Native Americans, about Indigenous. We find it increasingly we want to know. We as the people of the darker hue, are we? Who are we? Are we Hebrew? Are we Black Native American? Are we Moors? Are we a combination thereof? That's what we've been posing, and we've been finding that more and more people are having that, are raising that question. What I've also found is a certain group of people that try to run with that in the wrong direction. But as I was reminded today, that the truth needs no support.
Right. I am more focused not on who we are, but what we are doing.
Could we put, from a national perspective, a dollar amount on the type of money that has been invested back into what happened in the Greenwood district? Are you pleased with is there a dollar amount that we can all say that we should know about, we should be pleased with since the centennial?
Well, we raised $30 million in connection with the centennial to build Greenwood Rising, to do some other things.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and so
That's beautiful, brother.
and then the mayor with the Greenwood Trust, again, he wants to raise $105 million by 2026.
That's
by
beautiful.
2026. So if that happens, it won't all be cash. I mean, it could be cash, could be land, could be other things. But if that happens, that's huge.
Hannibal, how does that feel? I mean, you've been working, you've been writing. You were writing about this. I don't know if you started your well, I would imagine not. The centennial, I would think, is a plus for the work that you've done. But you've been on this for a long time, and
yeah, I started working on this history in the late 1990s. So, but 30, 35 years ago.
how does it feel?
Progress is great. I mean, I think it really feels great to make concrete progress. But that's why Greenwood Rising is so important. It is a physical space. It's substantial. It's highly regarded. It's on the map for tourists, and it shares this history in a contextualized way. So that's really important. The other thing that's been really important to me is curriculum. So we've over the years gotten this history better infused into the curriculum, particularly at the local level, but also at the state level. Curriculum's important because it has generation spanning effect, right? We want everyone to know this history now and going forward, generation after generation. That's why what the president, and it's part of the reason, what the president is advocating with regard to the Smithsonian is so foolhardy and tragic, to pretend like certain things in our history sort of didn't happen, or some people in our history are less important than other people, or that only white males had a significant role in fashioning our nation. That's absurd. I mean, it's so absurd and offensive.
Hannibal, I gotta ask you this one question. There are many of us just becoming aware that Tulsa's Greenwood district was not the only Black community. How many others in Oklahoma were there?
So Oklahoma had a whole bunch of black towns. These were mostly rural, mostly agrarian spaces where Black people congregated and had leadership roles in a segregated era. The idea was, for some of these folks, Booker T. Washington, the notion that if we could inhabit a space, govern a space on our own, and survive economically, then we would be able to demonstrate to white people that we are as good as they are, and then perhaps racism would abate. That's the kind of fanciful notion that some people had at a different time in our history. We know that didn't really pan out, but these places, these Black towns, were proving grounds. They were opportunity centers. They were escapes from the racial crucible that existed in other places in the United States. And again, they were mostly formed between 1890 and 1910. They were mostly agrarian. So changes to the industrial era, changes in social, political policy, all those things really were devastating to the Black towns. We have about 12 viable Black towns still existing in Oklahoma. They're working together. We just created an Oklahoma Civil Rights Trail. The towns are on the trail. I served on the 40 Years of African American History Commission at the federal level, and we provided money to mark the trail. In fact, I was just at a marker placement yesterday. So we're marking these places on the trail. The idea is that one of the things that these towns can do, the ones that are still viable, is take advantage of the interest nationally in heritage or cultural tourism. And so the creation of a trail allows people to know that there's this collective of towns, visit these towns. These towns need to come up with visitor centers and other ways for people who come through to leave some money there when they're there. Do a little bit of commerce, and that will help the town the towns at least marginally.
Well, I got to put a plug in for my book, Hannibal. You know, this is something that happened since I've met you, where I write about the journey of the Black people under Chief John Horse from Florida to Oklahoma, and then through Texas and to Mexico. So there were Black towns even before Oklahoma, to my understanding. Black people came in from Kansas because that's where John Brown was busting caps.
Yeah, one of the oldest Black towns in America, and one of the most famous, is Nicodemus, Kansas, in northwest Kansas.
Nicodemus, Kansas.
That's where E.P. McCabe was the state auditor in Kansas, and he's the person who came down to Oklahoma during land run 1889, founded the town of Langston, and he's kind of looked at as the father of the all-Black town movement in Oklahoma.
I didn't. So I saw a clip. I saw a piece recently on O.W. Gurley, and was who owned the hotel?
Gurley had Stratford had the most famous hotel in Tulsa, in Black Tulsa, the Stratford Hotel.
So it was E.B. McCabe. So it was E.B. McCabe. It was Stratford.
So E.B. McCabe was not in Tulsa. He was in Langston.
Okay.
Stratford was in Tulsa, had Stratford Hotel. He was a lawyer. O.W. Gurley in Tulsa, credited with kind of being the father of Black Wall Street, because he had the first reported business on Black Wall Street, and he reportedly sold parcels of land to other Black folks. He survived the massacre, ended up in California, died in California, I think in the 30s or 40s.
It is important that we preserve this history. I know you've told this story many, many times, but I think as you and I get older, there's a whole generation of people who have never heard this story. That's
right. And of course, you realize that I'm aging backwards. I don't know about you, but
we appreciate you, Hannibal.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Yes, sir. Thank you for joining us.
All right.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. So I'm going to try to give you a recap. We had some other guests scheduled for tonight, and for whatever reason, they weren't able to make it. But here's a recap of what we've talked about since last Wednesday. We've talked about indigenous people, Black people. We talked about Black people, Black people, Black people. And there are many different perspectives out there. I don't know about you, but I have been seeing this ongoing conversation, and we've been having it. We've been having it. We've been promoting it. We've been talking about Black people with Native roots. And we have recently come into contact with some who are of the mindset that Native Black American is the only conversation that we can have. This is what I know. If I'm driving down the street and Popo pull me over, he'll give a rat's bottom if I'm Native Black American, Jamaican, Haitian, whatever. You Black and in America, you got one common problem. You're Black. So regardless of what I learned about my lineage, nothing can, there's no way I can escape what this country views me as. Yes, who I view myself as is first important, but I can't be oblivious to where I'm at, to where I was raised. I grew up in Baltimore, East Baltimore, West Baltimore. Nobody asks you who your connection are. But as we are having this great awakening, Jeremiah, I'm gonna put the link if you'd like to come in to the show, because we'd love to talk with you before I shut this down, as well as anyone else who has some comments. I just ask that you be civil. That's all. There's the link right there, Jeremiah. I want to understand what you're saying. Carlene, we'd love to hear from you. Chime on in. Hello, Carlene. But yes, for me, here's another thing. If we are mean to each other, and Paige Hurd, I go back to my interview with Paige Hurd. That's like DMX's goddaughter, to my understanding. Paige Hurd, she talked about how if you are Latino, Black and Latino, Afro-Latino, and you bring that up in your conversation with your friends who may not have, or are even knowledgeable about their Latino roots, then to bring that up, there's some type of shame. And we don't necessarily mean it in a negative way. That's just how we can be. But as we grow, as we evolve, as we spend more and more time together, we have to respect each other's differences. And I do think we have a lot more in common than we have separate. So if you want to get separated over who got off on what boat stop, go ahead. But I'm looking to build alliances, build an understanding, contribute to this great awakening. There are some people who have Native American roots who are Black and know nothing about it. Yeah, we want to encourage them to find out all about it. But there's no way I can separate myself from the struggles of people that look like me all over the world. From South America to Asia. And it has always, since I was a teenager, it has always been imperative to me to know something about the 54 countries in Africa, from Cape Verde and Madagascar to South Africa to Libya, Mauritania. I tell you, when I first learned about the Moors, I was blown away. And let me just say this. You won't catch me on here intentionally cutting up with anybody. Yes, we like good radio. We like good broadcasts. We like things that contribute. I'm not on here to be to beef with anybody, and certainly another brother. We're gonna go our separate ways, but we're not using these platforms. We see too much of that. It's not happening here. 60 years old. I'm a grown man. We can do that somewhere else. But I am about my work as a journalist, as a media person, to bring these topics to the forefront. Who are we? And I still pose that question. And I think what Tiger Davis said last night was so profound. He said, we are who we say we are. If I know, I got Blackfoot Indian over here and Puerto Rican over here, Latino, in other words, or Afro-Latino, then I'm both of those things. I cried when I saw Africa. I was in Jordan in 2002. We were going south in Aqaba. We toured the whole country with Arthur Murphy, Billy Murphy's late brother, making a right turn in Aqaba. And somebody said, there's Cairo. And I said, where? There's Egypt right there, right across the water. Man, I broke down. Yes, I did. I've been wanting to see my mother for, at that point, 35 years, all my life. I saw Africa, yeah, it brought tears in my eyes. I can't speak for you. That's what it, I think we have to value Africa. Yeah, of course. I'm all for everybody. Be for who you are. Admire who you want. Love who you want. But we live in a country, I live in a city. Baltimore is the home of segregation. Baltimore is a 9-1 Democratic town with nothing but black elected officials. Maybe they should be more Trumpish, demand more. But I tell you something that divides us, class. Because you got blacks that make a certain amount of money that really don't associate with blacks that make this amount of money. And all of that in there, that's where the gap is. Because people that make that certain amount of money, they live up there or over there. And ones down here live over here. And so where we could be together, we're, hitting and missing. And those who do make it to there or in the political realm, you gotta drag them out of here back to Penn North. And then by the time you realize what's happening at Penn North, then somebody else with some dope, some bad dope, or something that's supposed to be dope. Okay, here we go. 1828 definition. American, native of America, originally applied to the Aboriginals or copper-colored races. American. Found here by the Europeans. Be more all day, Piscataway. I'll tell you something. And it's in your city. I know it's in your city. Every day is a journey. You go and you drive, and then all of the names that are right in our face every day. Patapsco, Sequoia Road, Sequoia Avenue in Northwest Baltimore. Powhatan, Northwest Baltimore, Ashburton. So many names are right in our face. I got to go back to these pictures from last night because they are just astounding. If you haven't seen them, let me just share them with you. Abe Lincoln would be shocked. I'm going to get back to you. Give me a second. I just got to get this up here. Did I get it? We had some pictures last night of some mound pyramids. They were just absolutely gorgeous. 400,000. I used to think it was 450. I've come to find out there are hundreds, if not thousands, of mound pyramids, including right over there at Collington Square, right here in my city of Baltimore. Maybe I lost my MO. I guess I did. We can pull some up. But there's so much history that we've been robbed of. Okay, here we go. Fun feeds. Lincoln will be shocked that all the Democratic cities are majority black. Even I am now that I know more about history. Democrat, Republican, we got to get out there and fight. If you're going to be involved, get involved. It's more than just pulling a damn lever. You got to be involved. You got to volunteer with campaigns. You got to get the candidate's cell number. If you don't have your elected official cell number, what are you doing? Yeah. A lot of times we take on the mindset of those who are doing wrong by us. So when we do finally get into power, we start acting like the very people who we were mad at in the beginning. So we become like those who we despise. But we have to get involved. We have to build alliances, and we have to teach our children more. And we got to teach basic respect. Now, I grew up in an era where you had to show respect. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you. You're welcome. Please. Excuse me. I don't know what we've become today. We got to get back to some basic self-respect, self-included. Starting with me. And I go to the corner store over here on Pennsylvania Avenue. Young people over there. I thank God for them. I wish better for them, but the best thing I can be to them is an example. And one by one, I have seen young people, young black men, young black women who would otherwise be standing on a corner, get a job. And next thing you know, you don't see them for 2 years. And you see them again and they just zipping through. And I tell you something else. For those who have been trapped in a cycle of poverty, when you do get a chance to go somewhere different, stay connected if you can. Just stay connected. There's phones, there's Zooms. We have to use this technology, you know, the phone, what do you call it? You know, when you cut the phone, a video camera. We have to stay connected and to maintain the property. There we go. Man, I thought I was about to get up out of here.
Man, listen, I've been trying to get in for the longest time, man.
Man, I've been waiting for you for the longest time. Oh my God. Ooh.
Check your text messages, man. How you doing?
I didn't know you was just there, man. I did everything. I've been up here trying to do a monologue, difficult to operate righteously in a corrupt system. Got to push forward and be the good we want to see in the world. Stella, all day long. How you doing?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good.
See, I know you as delegate. You take your title away. You're always going to be delegate to me. How you doing, big brother?
Hey, all right, man. I'm hanging in. I left my wife, you know, at 8 o'clock. She's doing well. She has some more tests to do tomorrow. And, you know, we put away a great lady today, Glory Green from Wilson Park.
Can you adjust your camera down? You got a lot of headroom. Your face is all the way down the bottom.
Yeah, let me also get a little more light here, too.
Yeah, maybe
a little more light. Yeah, and so young lady from Wilson Park, she's 4 years younger than I.
How old are you, man?
I'll be 83 next month.
Damn, you look good. We not doing the N-word tonight, okay? We trying to keep it clean on here.
All right.
Do your Richard Pryor on.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't brush my beard before I got on, but I'm rushing to get in here, man. Well, yeah, she was my class of 68 at Morgan. She was on the cheering squad, swimming squad, and all of that. Great lady from Wilson Park, man, and had a big funeral. You know, at Barn Green, that chapel they have there, the big one.
Yeah.
Hey, man, they didn't have enough room in there. And it was standing room only, and some folks had to stay outside.
So in Baltimore, there's Wilson Park, there's Morgan Park, there's Hose Heights.
Yes, Northwood, you know, you name it.
And I mean black communities.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And then there were also blacks, I understand, in the early 1900s in Cross Keys.
Mm-hmm. And there's another area over there by what is Evans Chapel Road. I'm in real old, ritzy black community over there, right off of that Hamden area, man. And, you know, a couple ladies I know had problems with our city council person because she didn't seem to understand the historical importance of those blacks that lived there. And you're talking about people like Dr. James Blake's wife, you know, they split up. She lived over there. A lot of, you know, upscale black folks, man. But, hey, look, that's the nature of what we're dealing with when you elect somebody outside of your community or his historical base of your community to represent you in the city council or the state legislature.
Since we're on that
topic, good lady now.
Since we're on that topic, what happens when we lose a 41st district state senate seat?
Hey, listen, Baltimore will just lose more power. At one time, Baltimore City had all the power in the state legislature because of its population base. You know, like when the state only had around 2 million something people. Baltimore almost had 1 million. You see, but now things have changed because, you have the suburbs of D.C., whether you're talking about Charles County or in those areas around Southern Maryland. You have Montgomery County has exploded, Prince George's County has exploded, and even Anne Arundel County has exploded, in population because people purchase homes there and they drive to D.C. to work. And so Baltimore, gets weaker every year. And our problems in terms of logistics in the city or what have you, like our roads, the problems become astronomical because here's what you're looking at. In Baltimore City, when you look at that transportation money, Baltimore City has more roads or streets that have to be paved in this city than the entire state combined. And what happens is everyone wants to get into that transportation trust fund. The rural areas or the areas outside the city, they want their roads paved. They want more money going there. We say we got to put more money into mass transit, cut down on the crowded streets and all. And so we have those arguments going back and forth. And they're going to escalate as time moves on because Baltimore is going to have less power and we're going to have to give up more just to get a little bit. For instance, for us to get money for Baltimore City teachers to increase their salaries, we had to cave in to Montgomery County, who was giving big salaries to their teachers. But what they wanted was the state to put more money into the retirement system, So, you have those kind of trade-offs, which the public never really engages in, right? And they don't know what is really going on. Because, man, we had to give up a lot just to get money from the city school system so that we could pay our teachers a decent salary. The teachers in Baltimore County, say with 10 years service and a master's degree, was making $10,000 more a year than Baltimore City teachers with an equal amount of time and education. So what happens is Baltimore County, change in population, they want more black teachers. They can pay them more, okay? Blacks are moving to Baltimore County, to the Randallstown area, Windsor Mill or what have you. So our school system became a training ground for teachers for the rest of the city, or rest of the metropolitan area. And the rest of the metropolitan area did not respect what was happening, okay? Because when we had that gas crunch crisis back in the 70s under the Carter administration, if you got to travel to Baltimore City to teach and you got to try to fight them gas lines and stuff like this, your best bet was to take a job out there in Baltimore County. And so we really lost a lot of teachers during that gas crisis crunch. But once again, those are just problems that are germane to the city. This is why we have to find some ways to get more of our employees in the city to move back to the city. Now, number one, it gives us a population base. Number two, it increases the, shall we say, the skill level or the, well, I hate to talk about the class level thing, but, it elevates the standards of the city's population. Because right now, when you think of the city, you think of drug addicts and crime, And that's unfortunate. That's unfortunate because this young boy, whether you like him or not, that boy is putting money into youth all over the city. All of our recreational facilities are being rehabilitated and expanded. Everybody, they're building up the swimming pools in all the areas and all of that. Okay, so and I think that's taking place because he has children. He has children. And so he understands the necessity for programs and initiatives to support our youth.
Okay. Listen, last night we touched on, and I wanted to get your feedback. We talked about everything from mound pyramids to your ancestor. I think you talked about your grandmother, who was full-blood Native American. What did you learn last night?
Well, I'm not sure whether I say, I learned anything, but I was reawakened. Let me put it that way. I was reawakened because you can get, begin to travel in a certain way, and then you begin to change your whole perception of what you should be doing or what have you. And hey, man, I was reawakened there last night because, man, people were talking the same way we talked back in the 60s and the early 70s or what have you. And I will never forget those periods. But once you go inside the system and you begin to compromise on who you once were, okay? Because in order to get things done, you've got to work with the people who are in control. And before you know it, you're no longer who you once thought you were. When I heard that brother talk last night, Tavis, and his mom, it just simply shook the foundations of who I am today, and I really appreciated that because, look, all last night, man, all I was thinking about was, dang, have I changed this much? I know I still believe in the things that I once believed in, but have I compromised on those things? Just to, have I gone along just to get along? And all of those things began to, shake the foundation of my perception of who I am. And that was a good conversation because, I think I grew a little bit after last night. I think I grew a little bit because it brought back memories. Look, when I say compromise, check this compromise out. I agree with Russell Means. Now, I don't know whether you know who Russell Means was. He and Dennis Banks headed the American Indian Movement, or AIM. They had that, 1,000 miles march to D.C. back in, 69 or something like that. And they led the struggle for the Sioux. And Leonard Peltier and a few of them went to jail. Okay. But at any rate, I was very proud of the Buffalo Soldiers, and I was advocating, the extraordinary military prowess of the Buffalo Soldiers. And so Russell says to me, whoa, why are you doing that? All they did was to serve the interests of the Europeans to commit genocide against Native Americans. I said, wait a minute, no. The Buffalo Soldiers, they were more human. No, they was part of the, no matter how you try to explain that they were more humane or this or that, they were still part of the military force, and they facilitated the genocide against the Native Americans. And no matter how you look at it, here I am today, just completed the 25th anniversary of the Buffalo Soldiers banquet, where we paid tribute to Buffalo Soldiers. Now, where's my consciousness? That's what I have to ask myself. Where is my consciousness? Have I changed that much, or have I caved in to the powers that be, or the dominant society? Because no matter how you look at it, the Black soldiers facilitated conquest all over the world. Did you get a chance to look up David Fagan? Remember I mentioned him to you. Ask Russell. Ask my man Russell. Yes, sir. Full-blooded Sioux. Yes, sir. He was straightforward, man. His whole view of the world was this: in order for the world to survive, Europe must die. Now, he didn't mean that physical death, but he meant this: In order for the world to survive, Europe must die. I will never forget this, brother, man.
What
You know,
what does that mean? That the Europeans' thinking must improve?
No,
Must
what
be dismissed? Must
my
be
view of what
diminished?
he meant is that the European view of the world must be conquered, or must be defeated. Because the European view of the world is that everybody else is subservient to the Europeans. We
Oh
all
yeah,
have
that's a
constitution.
problem.
Yeah. We all got
Damn right, that's a problem.
yes, sir. And so once again, he was one of the true freedom fighters.
You knew him?
Yes, man, that's what I was saying last night. We kind of lost friendship, shall we say, our relationship went south.
Because you out there
Because
touting the Buffalo Soldiers.
I continue to embellish the prowess and the service of the Buffalo Soldiers.
Was it embellished?
Yes, because I lifted it up.
Well, that's not embellishing. Embellishing is adding something to it that wasn't there.
I mean embellishing it within the confines of our history, within the context of our history.
Well,
yeah, but look, it was dead. I lifted it up. In other words, that's all I'm saying. That might be using the wrong word, embellish. But
it's still a part of our story. I mean, because what you have shared with me about people like James Fortin.
Yes. But remember now, he was not a Buffalo. James Fortin.
He was not a Buffalo Soldier, but you told me he was you said he was a patriot.
Yeah. But look, let me give you an example of another Buffalo Soldier.
And see, that's a perspective that, okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. Look. Try David Fagan. When we talked last night, the first thing popped in my mind was David Fagan. Let me go over him again. He went to the Philippines during the Philippine-American War. Now, we always talk about the Spanish-American War, but the real war was the Philippine-American War. You had a freedom fighter by the name of Emiliano Aguinaldo. Aguinaldo had defeated the Spanish. Dewey was sailing to the Philippines to fight the Spanish. But by the time he arrived, Aguinaldo had defeated the Spanish. So what the Spanish do, the leadership of the governor sails out to meet Dewey and gives his sword to Dewey because he could not tolerate being defeated by these niggas, because that's what they call them.
Okay.
That's what they call them, okay? Or monkeys, or slant eyes, whatever they want to call them. They call them by so many different, but they took the sword out to the Dewey.
You talking about this guy here?
That looked like David Fagan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. But now what he did, and there was other black soldiers or Buffalo soldiers who kind of followed him, but certainly they understood where he was coming from, because if you look at the letters that those guys in the Philippines sent home, they would talk about how treacherous the white soldiers were and how they treated the Filipinos worse than they treated us down south. Now that's bad, okay? And so what David Fagan did, he switched sides. He joined Aguinaldo, and he rose to captain within the Philippine army. And they fought, and they were always defeating in so many skirmishes and battles. They defeated the American soldiers, And so when I look at him, of what the sacrifice that he made, he stayed true. And so I have to compare myself. Did I remain true to my beliefs? And so last night, man, when I say that was a reawakening, because I haven't had that kind of conversation, man, of people who were knowledgeable and about our struggle against European hegemony or European domination, okay? Because make no question about it. If we talk about the truth, we're all nothing but slaves and puppets of the Europeans, okay? And whenever they get ready,
now, hold up.
Hey, all right.
Last night you said, I am as I think I am. Now, I don't think of myself as nobody's slave. Now I'm confused, big brother.
Mm-hmm. Well, let me try to break that down to you.
I don't see you as somebody's puppet. I see you as a leader of men.
That may be true, but still.
No, you in Annapolis.
Follow me now. Because you look, what I'm saying is what that makes us, okay, not in my own mind, okay, but in terms of the reality of our situation. We are a conquered people.
I don't know. I ain't buying that.
You don't view us as being a conquered people, man. We're a conquered people.
Because I can take my passport and get on a plane and go somewhere else.
Yeah. Well, look, it doesn't matter where you go. Where you gonna go?
I don't feel conquered.
Look, the Europeans conquered the entire world.
No.
Listen to me now. Look, didn't they control all of Africa except Ethiopia?
Ain't they getting kicked out of Burkina Faso right now?
Wait a minute now. Look, I'm talking about what has happened historically. Didn't the Europeans
historically for the past couple hundred years? Yeah,
they controlled all of Africa. They conquered all of Africa.
Except Ethiopia.
All except
Ethiopia.
All right, and we can talk about Ethiopia separately. Okay, now did they also come to the Western Hemisphere and conquer North and South America? Didn't the British
control? They came with their disease and
didn't they conquer India, South Asia, Southeast Asia?
Yeah, they did.
French had Indochina and all of that.
They had their claws up in there. And then change came again. Empires rise and fall. Ottoman Turks.
But have they really fallen? Have they really fallen?
Huh?
Have they really fallen?
Well, one rise, then another one rise, then another one rise even higher.
Yeah, but have they fallen? Who controls the world right now?
I've always understood it to be a few families.
And what nationality are those few families? Think about it.
They probably ain't from Sandtown.
And see, the whole thing about it is white folks, they don't realize that they're in the same situation we're in. Because
I see white people buying dope.
Get into this talk about capitalism versus socialism and all that.
It's no different. It's really class. They got us thinking it's race. It's about that. And access.
Class is a serious issue. Okay.
And we do it to each other. And sometimes our brothers and sisters get down to Annapolis and down to City Hall and get nude.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Like in that 41st district, the girl voted didn't vote for Malcolm. She didn't get nothing for a vote.
Wait a minute. Which girl?
Malcolm Ruff.
Yeah. I know what you're talking
state
about.
Senator. If one of those two black women would have voted for him.
Jill. Yeah.
The girl didn't even get a cigarette.
Yeah. Well, see that we are our own worst enemy. Okay. And
by design.
We're our own worst enemy because we do not have these kind of conversations like you and I are having right now. These are the kind of conversations that we once had within our circles of African people. I remember we would sit there and debate Malcolm's view of the world versus Martin Luther King's view of the world.
How did
And
that go?
one of the things that we found out was that they really had the same view of the world, but their methods of dealing with the problems were just simply different. And we should not get hung up on the method of resolution of the problem.
Do you feel a connection to Africa?
A strong connection. Strong connection. But listen, and let me say this. As time goes on, it becomes somewhat less. Okay. Not in my heart, but in my thoughts. Okay. In my thoughts, because I've got to deal with so much crap back here that sometimes you forget about the motherland.
Have you ever been to Africa?
Oh, yes.
Where'd you go?
Look, man, I was in the Congo in 1961, right after Patrice Lumumba was assassinated and mutilated, man.
You were
there. I never tell you about that, right? Look. They were paying $75 per diem.
I'm going to put that picture up. They cut my hands off in the Congo.
All right. And I should have known better, but I didn't. Okay. I'm 18 years old. And just before my 19th birthday, I was in the Congo because I went there TDY. It was only for 30 days a month, but I went there. And we stayed at Leopoldville Airport. And, I went there, I'm American. I'm psyched out in the head, how great I am and all this kind of stuff, man. When I got there, what was going on, man, was the French and Belgian paratroopers or foreign legions, whatever you want to call them, man. They were there raping nuns, man. Okay. The people hated us, man, but they hated me more. And I had trouble figuring that shit out, that they hated me more because we had the same old lineup. Whenever anything goes down, you have German electronic equipment and all that kind of communications equipment and everything, right? Then you got the U.S. aircraft and the Royal Canadian Air Force. They're all there. Then you got the British Land Rovers. And then you even got the Spanish troops in there. So the whole Western world come together because they was not going to allow that cobalt and the Congo to be under the control of a communist, and they labeled Patrice Lumumba a communist. Now, whether he was or not shouldn't have even mattered, okay? But they label him a communist, and in your mind, and that's what our whole thing was back in 1960, 61. We're fighting communism kind of thing, right? And so
they demonized them.
That's right. That's how they do it. They
to give a soldier, to make him numb.
Yeah,
that you just killing a bad person.
See, it's tough. You can't.
As opposed to you killing really a freedom fighter.
Yeah, or killing a human being, because once you label them gooks or whatever, or spear chuckers, or sand niggas, whatever you want to call them, man. It they're no longer
makes it easier to kill them
as human beings. And so, look, man.
You're getting
I'm
real
living in Leopoldville Hotel. The people are looking at me, man, and man, they was killing me with their eyes because they hated me, because here I was looking like them, but working with the enemy. It's kind of like the Vietnamese, right? In Vietnam, the Vietnamese would send them flyers out. Why are you black GIs here killing our people when your people are back home fighting the same enemy for freedom? Whoa, man, pass the joint, man. Or try this one.
Pass the joint.
Our gunnery range was in Wheelers, and that was Libya. Wheelers Air Base in Libya. And of course, King Idris was on the throne. This was before Gaddafi overthrew him. We're sitting around the hooch and stuff, man, and just chatting. And, I'm good. They calling them Arabs, ragheads, and some of them other names and stuff like this, right? And then they used the term sand niggas. Whoa! Then that was a wake-up call for me, because I'm sitting there, old rab head, Arab, the Arab, and all camel jockeys and all that shit, right? And then they referred to them as sand niggas. And that wakes you up to the reality of your existence among these people, man. So when you ask why I was angry when I came home, and why, I could very easily be classified as anti-American or whatever, it's because of that experience, man. Because no matter how it goes, whenever you're dealing with the master's people, okay, or the conqueror's people, they all got the same view of who we are. And we are no different than the people they have us fighting and killing, whether it be Native Americans, whether it be Vietnamese, or whether it be what they call sand niggas or Arabs, But that's who they are. Pick up a textbook sometime and look at how they refer to the people in Hawaii. Queen Liliuokalani, right? I think it's about 1898 or what have you. Dole Pineapple and all the businessmen wanted to take control of Hawaii. The U.S., I think it was McKinley, they sent our fleet there to facilitate those armed businessmen who overthrew Queen Liliuokalani. Beautiful lady. Hawaiians all look like black people up to that point. Okay? They kind of lighten up as time went on. But look at how they referred to them. They was always referred to as monkeys, niggas, and all that kind of stuff. The language of the conqueror has been the same, whether it was Hawaii or whether it was the Philippines, man, I'm telling you, or whether it's in the Arab country, because we're all clustered together in the mindset of the conqueror. And until we understand that, our progress is going to be limited significantly, or limited to our degree of independence. Because, like Malcolm used to say, man, we got to separate from these people, man. We got to separate. But,
about this guy right here? You know that guy right there?
I can't think of him right now, but.
That's King Kamehameha.
Oh, okay.
Kamehameha. He was the first black. He's the king of Hawaii.
Yeah. Okay.
You talked about the woman down there, the queen.
Queen Liliuokalani. Is that his daughter? That might be his daughter.
I don't know, but he is.
Yeah, we can pull up a picture of Queen Liliuokalani.
I do have that picture.
Yeah, pull her up. Because look, man, I fell in love with that lady back when I was in college, man, because she tried to stand her ground. But look, they didn't have access to the superior military technology, because that, I wrote a piece once, it's a gun that rules, and without the gun, there's no rule at all. And you can see that in the Ukraine. The Ukrainian people, they could defend themselves if the U.S. allowed them to have those arms. Now, you notice they were winning or driving back the Russians until Trump came to office. Trump cut off their ability to intercept the drones, and the missiles that are being fired in there. You know, what we call our Patriot missiles, or our what they call our defensive shield. Oh, see what I mean? There she is. Yes, Queen Liliuokalani. That's who they took Hawaii from. She understood, and they took it from them and then called them niggas and everything else under the sun. You know, so that's what happened. We are defeated people. And until we recognize that we're defeated people.
I'm not defeated, man. I'm not buying that. I'm a victor.
Well, no.
Yeah.
Look.
And them young people behind me, they really victims.
And until we recognize that we're conquered people, we're never going to be free.
I don't want to be free.
We can be free here. We can be free here, is what I'm saying. But you got to recognize the truth, man. They done beat our ass, man.
These young people behind me ain't buying that storyline at all, and I ain't gonna sit up here and agree with you on that. Them young people behind me are not messing around, and they are not taking. They're not taking things that others before them took. Whether they be right or wrong, they are not taking it. It's you thought the 60s was off the hook?
Look, try this. Key into your laptop, Black Malicious, and take a look at them brothers.
Yeah, they get you put off of off of YouTube.
Oh, okay.
we try to stay on there. I had to catch myself. Hey, listen, I'm just saying, all you gotta do is look at social media. Did you see the young? Remember the dude threw the hat up in the air? He was down on the pier fighting, threw his hat up in the air, and then Black people came to his aid from all over the place. We are seeing that all over the country. This is not previous generations. They are not taking what has been taken before. I mean, you're seeing it all over social media. People not standing for that anymore at all. It'll get ugly before it get pretty, but nobody's taking what they took before from anybody.
Listen, it's not even. Look, the question is, are they romantics, or are they serious? Or are they serious warriors? Okay.
Well,
you know,
you are a warrior. You've been at the track. You was at the 10th offensive, weren't you?
Yeah, Malcolm would always say, you know, we'll bleed for everybody else, but we will not bleed for ourselves. Huh? Now,
I'm gonna give you something good. You gave me something good. I'm gonna give you something good. Go ahead.
Are we? I raised that question again. Are we serious warriors?
Well, that's what I tell me.
Or are we just romantics, and we like to feed ourselves false perceptions of reality?
I don't know, but I know Harriet Tubman carried that Colt 45 for a reason. And she wasn't playing. You come over there with her, she ain't playing with you. Better come correct.
Yes. And there, folks, I mean, you know, I kind of think I stood my ground.
Oh, you fought for us.
You know.
I know you did. I watched you.
Yeah, I think I stood my ground, but what I'm saying to you now is after that discussion, that was the last night or the
last night.
Hey man, after that discussion, I had to reassess who I am and what I'm doing. I mean, really. And then, you know, I had to think about, well, what do I do from this point on? Because many of the things and the commitment that I had, you know, I was ready to die at one time. You know, and death didn't mean anything. You know, and it was kind of like one of them things, you know, hey, let the enemy come.
I want to teach you about somebody. Do you know who this person is?
Not right offhand.
Okay, well, his name is Zumbi.
Oh, you talking about my man down in Brazil?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know who Zumbi is.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite.
Hell of a warrior. Hell of a warrior.
Yeah.
Zumbi. Yes, Zumbi.
Zumbi dos Palmares.
Yes.
Yeah,
they got a little town named after him down there, don't they? Palmares?
I would imagine so, but he was a freedom fighter. He was the Nat Turner of Brazil.
Yes, sir. Serious brother.
Yes.
Yeah. Now, see that. Do we have the courage of a Zumbi?
Most of us don't.
Hey man, look. Do
That
you know they have dances and that's become a cultural thing down there, Zumbi?
Well, this
There's
is
a whole
him.
culture based on Zumbi, man.
This is Zumbi right here. Zumbi de Palmares.
Yeah, I know who he is. I know who he is. In fact, let me see. I've got some stuff over here. Let me see if I can pull this up, man. I've got that whole study. Stuff that I don't usually bring out. This is called CRS report. Let me see. Hold it up there. Let me see.
Okay, let me get zoomed out of here.
Okay. I don't know whether you can see that. Oh, here it is. CRS report for Congress. Okay. What's the date on that? Let me see what the date is. This was updated November the 21st, 2008. It's entitled Afro-Latinos in Latin America and Considerations for U.S. Policy. Okay. See, most folks ain't going to deal with stuff like this because most folks do not care that the Brazilian businessmen shoot our children on sight down there. Are you still there? Yeah. Yeah. See, most of our people don't even get into that. Do you know, ma'am, they hire people to go out and kill those kids on the streets down there in Brazil? Because for them, those kids are disrupting their business and their profits. And those kids are simply orphans and they're homeless kids down there in Brazil. And they shoot them on sight, just like you shoot a rabid dog, man. I mean, you know, like when I talk about last night, say all the stuff.
Show that again. Hold it still for a minute.
Let me see if I can hold it up a little bit so you can get the full title. This is updated 2008.
Did it conclude? Talk to me.
Yeah, at one time before I got in the legislature, man, this is all I would do was to take time to study and reinforce, you know, my perception of the world. And I'd always have access to these kind of reports, right? Issues affecting Afro-Latino populations or what have you. There's studies all over like this, man. Everybody know these folks in Congress get these studies. They know what they're doing, and they understand clearly that Brazil is really an Afro country. They know that before Castro took over, Cuba was over 50% pure African, you know. I mean, that kind of stuff. Because see, most of the slaves that was brought to the Western Hemisphere were taken to Brazil. That's why they went to Brazil. But in Brazil, there was a slight difference in their society because it was a Catholic nation. And the Catholics believed that the Africans, although they might have been, feared that they had souls. Here in North America, under the Protestants, you know, they did not view the Africans as having a soul. And so consequently, what happened is we were dealt with differently in North America and South America. And very few people, you know, one of the things that popped into my head again last night was how my people and my family viewed Haitians. See, down in that area, South Carolina and Georgia, you have people of Haitian descent. These were the people who were descendants of the Haitians who fought in the American Revolution, right? You know, because you always had them Haitians coming here to fight for the American Revolution. Some of them stayed here, and those Haitian people of Haitian descent saw themselves as being different than other black people. And down home in Georgia, man, the folks were really down on Haitians because they saw them as being uppity, man. You know, all of this stuff
being uppity?
Uppity, yes, sir.
Okay. We're gonna pick up this discussion at another time. I got to go and get ready. We got
go on and get ready, man. Look. You bring on some great discussions, man. You hear me?
We have.
Yeah, but you're the lead now, okay? Because it's your time. I can only give you, you know, a little history on how I view things and like remember what I said to you, man.
Well, we got some people much younger than me who are listening.
I had to re-examine who I am or what I have become after that discussion last night. And I think that there was a time when I was doing that kind of re-examination every week, if not every day. Okay. And we were constantly reviving who we were or who we are or what have you. But, you know, after a long period of time, I have not engaged in that kind of introspective analysis until last night.
Okay, well, go ahead and put your dashiki on. I'm going. I got to go handle some things.
All right, brother. Take care now. Keep up the good work, Donnie.
Thank you, and thank you to all of the people who tuned in tonight. Jeremiah Myers,
or access your personal device.
Fun Fees. Thank you all.
Your dashiki on, or gotta gram some things.
What'd you do? Okay, somebody added something in there. Much love and respect, Tiger Davis, the one and only. We love you, big brother. Thank you for being my friend.
All right.
Stella, thank you, Stella. Much love.
Later
and
now.
Everybody else. Special thank you to Dr. Tyrone Tabor. Please let me thank that man. He's opened the doors and put this whole show into the metaverse of STEMCityUSA.com. Doni Glover, good evening, world.
Later now.